Welcome to Leadership in Action, a series of interviews with law firm leaders on issues important to running a successful mid-sized law firm. These podcasts are part of the Managing Partner series presented by Thomson Reuters in affiliation with the Managing Partner Forum and are hosted by John Remsen Jr., CEO of the Managing Partner Forum and President of the Remsen Group. Our guest this month is Marc Dedman, a member of Spicer Rudstrom, PLLC, with offices across the Mid-South. Marc is based in Nashville, Tennessee, where he advises business and insurance clients. Welcome, Marc and John.
Well, thank you, Colleen, for that introduction. And Marc, thank you for being with us this month to participate in our Leadership in Action podcast series.
Well, thank you for having me. I look forward to speaking with you.
Well, we look forward to speaking with you as well. And before we get started on our topic this month, which drills down on the difference between marketing and business development, tell us a little bit about your firm, Spicer Rudstrom, its history, and some of its strategic priorities looking out over the next few years.
Sure, I'm happy to. Spicer Rudstrom was formed in 1963 in Memphis, Tennessee. In 1994, we had the opportunity to be the first law firm in the state of Tennessee to go statewide. And we did that from a practice of only 13 attorneys, not 13 partners, but 13 attorneys. We opened up offices also in Nashville, Knoxville, and Chattanooga. And we, again, were the very first firm to do that. The second firm to do that was about 18 months behind us, much larger law firm, Baker Donaldson. But we were the first one, so we were, I guess, the trendsetter, you could say, relative to the geographic expansion, at least within Tennessee. So a lot of what I think we're going to be talking about today are things that we've been through.
Well, and what is your head count today, Marc?
We have about 40 attorneys, so we're a mid-sized law firm.
Mm-hmm. And your major practice areas would consist of what primary sort of practice groups?
We're a boutique practice as opposed to the larger firms which offer across-the-board type legal services. We're essentially a litigation practice firm. Now, within litigation, we do both business and commercial litigation as well as insurance defense. We have one attorney that does divorce litigation. We do bankruptcy, but most all of our practice is focused on litigation.
Interesting. Appreciate your sharing that with us. And as part of your growth, obviously, you had to get out there, do a little marketing, attract clients, retain clients. And in my work with you, and as we got to know each other, I found that you really had a pretty keen understanding the difference between marketing and business development. And I find that many lawyers I talk to aren't real clear on what distinguishes the two, how they interrelate. And then we can plug in advertising and branding and all these other things law firms are doing. But how do you see kind of the difference between marketing, business development, and the very essence?
Yeah, in the very essence, someone had told me when I first, well, let me back up a step. This firm was one that, like many other law firms, grew through the heyday of the legal practice, which basically entailed putting out a shingle and the business came to you, probably from the 1960s until the 1990s. As you know, John, in the 90s, things began to change. And, of course, since 2008, that's right, just a little. But since 2008, it has changed remarkably. And what has happened to the legal industry is that it has become much more business-driven. So the principles of business now have become very deeply rooted in the practice of law, which had been somewhat immune to that type of pressures that other businesses have had historically. And by that, I mean all businesses, whether you're a dry cleaners or a gas station or running a supermarket chain. What you're seeing now in the legal industry are many of the same things that other industries experienced 50 years ago, 40 years ago, 30 years ago. Consolidation, price competition, threats that didn't exist before, threats from other than law firms and lawyers that are now taking over certain areas of practice that lawyers used to control for all intents and purposes. And so what you're seeing in our industry now is a necessity to be more focused on the business side of the legal practice, or if we're not, we'll find that we're no longer in business, that our clients and our business have been taken over by somebody else. So relative to your question, given that premise, is there is a difference between marketing and client development. We use client development in the legal community, but basically all that is a euphemism for sales. And there is a difference between marketing and sales. And a very, very successful businessman had told me that a number of years ago, probably 4 or 5 years ago, when I was trying to understand that concept better. What is the difference? And what he told me, or the analogy he gave to me, was that marketing is like putting bird seed out, and then client development or sales is like the hunter who shoots the birds that's eating the bird seed. And so client development is getting the clients, whereas marketing is laying the seed to entice the clients to at least give you a look.
I really like that analogy. When the first time I heard you say that in those terms, I really the visual is so great, and I think really does a good job of underscoring the difference. And you used the term client development. I refrained from using the S word because I think that scares a lot of lawyers. The notion that they have to go out and sell, not why they went to law school. And I think a lot of lawyers are afraid of that concept, that they got to get out there and kind of ask for business. Would you agree?
I can certainly speak from my own experience, both within my firm and from people I know in other law firms, that's been their experience, that lawyers, because culturally that has not been a requirement in our industry to go out and drive business like that. It's different for us. And I don't know enough about personality surveys whether lawyers make good salespeople or not. I don't know. You would think so, particularly in litigation, since what we do in litigation is sell our position or sell our clients either to a court or to a jury. So you would think that we could actually be very good salespeople. I've certainly found that to be the case, that a lot of people don't like to go ask for business.
Larry Richard, I don't know if you read much of his work as to the lawyer personality, what makes lawyers tick, and he finds through his dozens of years of research that lawyers are introverts by and large and have low social resilience, don't bounce back well to awkward situations, don't respond well to hearing no, and that is a large driver and lawyers, their fear of rejection, and why they're so reluctant to go out there and put themselves in situations that they perceive as kind of risky. Do you see some of that within your firm? I know you're trying to motivate more of your lawyers to get out and get comfortable and involved in the community, interfacing with clients and such. Are you getting much pushback here as you try to instill that marketing culture at your firm?
Well, absolutely. In fact, that the point you just raised is one that we just recently discussed at a partnership retreat we had in January, and we discussed that very thing. The reticence of some of the attorneys, or many of the attorneys in our office, to go out and develop relationships and ask for business. It's actually a very simple proposition, but it's just new. It's not something we've had to do. And, you raise the personality traits of attorneys that you just did, but other ones are, risk aversion,
big time,
and control. And when you're going out and trying to get new business, you're facing both risk and a lack of control. So it's an environment that attorneys just aren't accustomed, particularly litigation attorneys, are just not accustomed to being in. But the way that our industry is changing, it's one that we're going to have to become accustomed to in order to be successful.
Interesting. I encourage lawyers to focus not so much on selling and friendships, genuine, authentic friendships. Clients, I think the studies will tell us, hire lawyers, not law firms, generally speaking. They hire lawyers they know, they like, they trust, and you trust your friends. And take the pressure off. We're not asking you to go out and sell IBM over the course of a couple of months. I think invest in genuine friendships and be sincere, authentic. It tends to come back to you sometime, someplace. How do you feel about that concept?
Well, I think you're exactly right. There are so many books out there that have helped me in the last, 6, 7, 8 years. In fact, you've recommended a couple yourself, John, that I've read, and that's exactly the point. Is develop the relationships, and like most any relationship, that's not something you develop with 1 or 2 phone calls, and all of a sudden you've got this close relationship. In fact, you don't develop a relationship at all with a client simply by calling them to talk about a matter you're working on and then billing them 0.3 or 0.2 or whatever the case may be. That is not a relationship. A relationship is something completely different than that, and a relationship sometimes takes years to develop. But when a prospective client or a client realizes that you actually have their best interest at heart and know that you're going to give them good work at a good price, then you have everything you need in order to be a successful attorney. And relative to that, I will tell you one thing that I do. I mean, this, and I'm not suggesting this to others necessarily to do, but this is just something I do. I have clients who are kind enough to send me business, and with that business they send to me, I'm able to pay the salaries of our employees here, pay our lights, pay my own lights at my house, pay for my own car note. The least I could do is reciprocate and use their products and go to their stores. And if there's a client of mine that has a big rivalry with another competing client, I don't go to that competing client. I don't use their products, and I let my clients know that. And I don't tell them that for business reasons. I tell them that because they know that I am focused and committed to them. And it's, again, something that's very simple that people can do to develop closer ties and closer relationships with other people.
Well, and there's your personal business and your relationships, but the firm's business as well. I mean, if you're trying to court UPS as a client, maybe you should use UPS for your shipping and your overnight documents. That might be an indicator that you're interested in the relationship. And a cute story, and then we'll move on. And I was working with a firm in Ohio, and we were putting together our RFP for UPS. And spent, I can't tell you how many hours working with the partners assembling this beautiful proposal. And we sent it to their headquarters here in Atlanta via FedEx. Needless to say, that package didn't get opened. But just case in point, such common sense that I think lawyers aren't tuned in to think about necessarily, that can go a long way toward building friendships, relationships. I think sincerity and authenticity are very important concepts as well. And I think lawyers can force themselves, and no one wants to be forced upon by a sales call, a lawyer making a sales call. But a lawyer who really cares, asks questions, follows up, that's someone in whom I develop trust and confidence and might want to consider hiring as my lawyer when I got an issue. We'll talk a little bit about social media and then wrap it up. I know we're starting to run out of time here, and I'm wondering, are you a big social media guy? Are you out there LinkedIn and Twittering and stuff like that?
I don't tweet. I would like to learn more about that and how to do that. And frankly, I'm not sure that I have as much interesting things to say through Twitter that maybe others do. Having said that, the firm is very active in LinkedIn, as am I, Facebook. There's a lot of mechanisms by which we can get information out there that's to the client or prospective client's interest and may solve a need or address some question they may have, and also gets the firm's name out there.
It wasn't around 20 years ago. It really is an interesting tool, I think, to learn about people that you're looking to cultivate a relationship with. It's amazing what you can learn by looking somebody up through Facebook, LinkedIn. Just Google the name, and you learn about hobbies and avocations and all sorts of things. And what a nice research tool to learn about people. It is a people business, a relationship business. And Those tools are out there. I'll close out with just one final question. Your advice to a firm leader, a managing partner who's really trying to build a network, a marketing culture in his or her law firm, really trying to get the lawyers to focus on some of the things we've been talking about, the importance of getting out, building relationships and such. If you're the change agent at your law firm, you're trying to really get your firm to put this stuff in play, because I know you've taken on this role at your firm. You've been there, done that. What advice would you offer a firm leader trying to be that catalyst for change?
I think based on the experience that we have had here, the single best thing I could say, again, based on the experience that we've had, is to determine what the firm's objective or what the firm's goal is. Yogi Berra had a great comment, great line that I've remembered for a number of years now. And what he said was, if you don't know where you're going, you're probably not going to get there. That means nothing when you think about it, but it means everything at the same time. And if a law firm doesn't know what it is it wants to accomplish, if a law firm doesn't know what its goal is or what its mission is, then it's probably not going to get there. It's probably going to go off in 20 different directions with 20 different people not working together toward the same common objective. And so I think the biggest single piece of advice I could give as a predicate to moving forward and everything else that has to be done in any type of strategic plan relative to developing business is to determine what it is your goal is. Because if you can identify that goal, you can figure out a way to get there. So that I think that's what I would say to somebody.
I think great advice, and it's still shocking to me that only about 40% of mid-sized firms have a firm-wide strategy that articulates that vision, articulates that goal. And, keep it simple, but the more focused and clear you are on what you're going after, the more likely you are to get there. I agree with you 100%. Marc Dedman, always enjoy chatting with you, and thanks again for your time. We appreciate it. Anything else before we kick it back to Colleen?
Not that I can think so. Thanks very much.
We appreciate it again, sir, and you have a good day. Colleen, we'll kick it back to you.
Thank you for joining us for this edition of the Managing Partners Series, Leadership in Action. For more information and resources, visit legalsolutions.com/managing partner.